If you have seen succulents before or have read about them, then you would know that these little cute fat plants came from dry or semi-arid places or places that are nearby a desert, but that doesn't mean that you can't grow them if you're living in a tropical area or in a tropical country like mine. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to do exactly that. If you're new to the channel, welcome to Cali Plants. My name is Mark. I'm a Filipino plant nerd who's been growing succulents for about a year now here in the Philippines, which is why I can tell you that it's not impossible to grow these beautiful plants if you're living in a tropical area like mine. I've broken down the tips that I'll be sharing with you in this video in these categories you can see at the side of the screen here. So if you want to go straight to the topic, then you can look for the timestamps at the description below. But also while you're there, maybe you can hit the subscribe button so that you can join our club of garden nerds here at the Cali Plants channel. If I were to define a good potting mix for succulents in the simplest way possible, I would say that it has to be fast draining. Succulents love good drainage. They don't like to keep their roots very wet for very long, unlike other plants, unlike other houseplants which you might already have. So if you're already growing houseplants and have some idea on the potting mixes of those plants, then you can try adding amendments to that so that it can be suitable for growing succulents. And if you're living in the tropics, you might have some access to cocoa coir or rice hull or pumice, so those ingredients are good for adding drainage to your potting mixes. If you're not familiar with those, cocoa coir or cocoa peat comes from the husks of coconuts, which are usually found in tropical countries. Also, there are rice hulls, which are the byproduct of rice, so those are the husks of rice. So those can be composted or carbonized to be used for amendments to add drainage to your potting mix. Pumice, on the other hand, are inorganic materials you can add to your potting mix, and they are found in volcanoes. They look like little white rocks which have holes in them, and those holes are what makes them good for adding drainage to your potting mixes. Now, adding these amendments into your potting mix is very important, especially if you're going to be growing succulents outdoors, because if you're living in a tropical country, then you would know that you will be getting rain. And to help your plants dry out after the rain, they will need to have good drainage into their potting mix. The ratio of organic to inorganic materials that I have always been using for my succulents, and the ratio that I would always recommend, would be 7 parts inorganic materials like pumice and 3 parts organic materials. However, if you don't have access to pumice, you can still grow succulents in mixes as long as they are fast draining and with amendments. If you mix in cocoa coir or compost or rice hull into your mix, then it can still be usable for succulents, just as long as you're gonna be mindful of watering them and you're gonna be protecting them from extra rain. Temperatures in the tropics often reach about 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, which are tolerable for most of these plants, and also because we're living in the tropics, we won't be having freezing temperatures, so we can practically grow succulents outdoors all year long. However, if it gets too hot in your area and your succulents are already showing signs of sunburn, of burning, or of heat stress, then you can try adjusting the location of your succulents to where they can get morning sun and then protection when it's too hot, when it's in the middle of the day and it's too hot. So you can place them in a protected area, or you can try investing in garden nets or these screens which you can put over your area so that you can protect your succulents from extreme heat. Still, I would advise you to give your succulents at least about 6 hours of direct sun so that they won't etiolate and they won't lose their colors, and also it will lessen the chance of rot if they get more sun. And remember this, that succulents that get more sun will grow more than succulents that don't get as much sunlight. Another factor that you have to consider if you're growing succulents in the tropics would be the humidity. And because succulents come from places that are not humid, that are very dry, it's best to give your succulents good airflow if it gets too humid in your areas. If it's not windy in your place, like my place which is very windy right now, then you can try adding more airflow to your plants by using electric fans, or by, generally using electric fans or air conditioners around them, especially if you're growing them near your house where you have access to those equipment. Also, you can avoid excess humidity around your succulents if you're keeping your area dry and if you're growing them in places which there are not much water containers, and also by keeping away from misting your plants, because succulents don't like humidity, so I don't recommend you mist them, especially if you're growing in tropical areas. When it comes to the season, succulents will still follow their dormancy, if you've already heard about their dormancy. succulents such as echeverias will grow during the summer months and sedums will grow during the colder winter months. But still, you will have to factor in the amount of light they receive, especially during the winter months or the rainy season in your tropical area. If they get less sun when it's raining for too long, then your succulents will not be growing much. So I don't recommend you keep them wet if it's been raining for too long and there's little sun in your area. So I suggest that you keep them dry if they're not getting enough light to grow. For summer growers, on the other hand, you will have to watch out the humidity in your area if you're trying to grow them or you're trying to make them grow a lot more during the summer months, because when it's too hot, generally the humidity will be higher, so you will have to be extra mindful of your watering schedule when it's too hot. So I would recommend you water during the colder times of the day, such as early in the morning or late in the night, to avoid that extra humidity, to help your plants dry out. So when the sun is up and when the sun is already hot, then they will already be dry and you will lessen the chance of getting rot on your succulents. I would also highly recommend that if you're starting with succulents, that you research their needs and their dormancy, because even though they may look alike, they have very different needs and they have very different dormancy. And those that are winter growers will have to be watered less during the summer months, and those that are summer growers will have to be watered less during the winter or the rainy months, because if they're not growing, if it's not the season that they will be growing, then they will not be absorbing more water and they will be more prone to rot if they get too waterlogged during the months that they are not actively growing. Finally, for the types of succulents that I would recommend if you're gonna be starting growing them in the tropics, I would recommend you start with aloes such as this, or with cacti, because cacti are they're very tolerable of high temperature, so they can survive better if it's too hot in your area. Or you can also try Echeveria gibifloras. These large size Echeverias or Echeveria gibifloras are more tolerable of heat, so they can survive better if it's too hot in your area compared to our sensitive winter growing succulents such as Senecio and our sedums. However, I can say that you can still have success with this kind of harder type varieties. You can still have success with them with practice, especially if you start out with succulents that are not too expensive to practice with them, so that you will learn the needs of the more expensive varieties such as this Sedum Trilliaceae. If you are already trying out this type of succulents and they are dying, then don't worry too much about it, because that's just how gardening with succulents is. You get a plant that will die and you get some plant that will grow, and you just have to try and practice more and more so that you will learn the exact needs of your plants, and it wouldn't take long for you to master the needs of each and every one of these cute little fat succulents. Personally, I'm still learning new things about growing succulents, so learning about them, growing them is a never-ending process. It's always a joy. There's always something new to learn. So I would recommend that if you're already starting with them, don't quit right away. Give it some more time, study a little more, and you will find out soon enough that growing succulents can be very rewarding for you. And also, another way to learn about succulents is by subscribing to this channel, to Cali Plants, where we post informative videos as much as possible. We have been trying to upload 3 times a week to share my knowledge, before with Filipino viewers, but now I'm also doing videos in English. So if you're an English viewer, then you can very much benefit with our future videos here in the channel. So you would be helping out a lot if you like and subscribe down below, and also if you share these videos with your friends who are starting out with succulents. But I think that's it for our video today. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.